Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie. And look, after a loss to a very depleted Sydney side, and it looks like finals are seemingly out of reach. Very keen to get stuck into it and hear Lockie's thoughts on that. But look, we're going to do things a little bit differently this week. We're going with a different approach. Less segments, less gimmicks. Let's just have a chat, Lockie. Let's just have a chat.
Like the good old days,
we need some therapy in this one. So the gimmicks are away, and I'll start with a question I often ask, but it feels like when I ask this sometimes it's a bit more, not to act like I don't care about your feelings, but I don't want to just surface level answer to this one. I want us to go nice and deep with it. So, Lockie, how are you feeling about everything Carlton right now? I think we're normally seen as that optimistic Carlton podcast in the community. So I'm just keen to see where everything sits with you after that loss on Friday, because it's an interesting place right now. And I don't even know myself how I currently feel.
Well, as we often tend to do with these shows, I feel like sometimes we start low and then towards the end, we're energized again and we're ready to go for the next game. So hopefully we'll get that. I'm doing okay. I definitely, this game, it's felt like it's just escalated week by week. My kind of feeling at the end of each of these games, I hadn't felt as bad as I did after that Collingwood one in some time, and this one definitely topped it. And I think a lot of that's about kind of our expectations. Like obviously we spoke a lot about the Collingwood game last week, and then we still thought we were going to get up and win this game by 5 goals. So it's that constant hope that makes it even harder to deal with these losses, I think.
It does. And it's interesting because I think I said going into that Collingwood game, my expectations were, I don't think we're in this. I'm going in with hope, as I always do, but I didn't go in with that expectation that we'd get close to them. So when we lost, it probably didn't hurt as much. I don't think I maybe reacted as much as others, but then I built up this Sydney game as they're depleted. They're not playing well. They just beat a North Melbourne side due to an interchange infringement. Like they pretty much were going to lose that game of football.
Yeah.
We need to be beating them. We need this not only for form, for confidence. It was finals are on the line. Another loss is just going to be so difficult against a team that we're sort of vying for those positions against. It's more than 4 points. It feels like that because of where the ladder sits. And I sort of built this up as we lose, finals are done, season's over. And maybe that's me going too much into one game of football, but it just, so flat. I'm not sure I felt this flat in a long time. And I don't want to be so reactionary to this loss, but I can only kind of say how I'm feeling, at least in this moment. And maybe my opinions on it will change, but it feels so much worse in a way compared to the start of the rebuild, like 2018 season when we won 2 games where, because we thought there was hope, because we're okay, well, we're going to be losing games at the moment. This isn't ideal, but just wait a few years. These players are young. They're going to develop. And then we went through everything with ending Bolton, get Teague in, falls flat again. And it felt like this was almost like that last roll of the dice. Like we have to get everything right. And then to now be here after last season, after missing out on finals, where it feels like we're so far behind where we thought we were meant to be. There isn't that we're young. It's all just going to sort of happen. And that's kind of got me in this feeling of all I've written down is I'm so lost right now. I don't know where we are. I don't know what's gone wrong, why we've fallen from so much from last year, where we can go to, how I'm meant to feel, what I am feeling. It's definitely a lost kind of feeling right now.
Yeah, you make some good points that I hadn't really thought about in these past few days. I think if I think back to the preseason, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but for myself, it was kind of it just feels like we're just naturally going to get better.
Yeah.
Another year of the group altogether. We're still kind of just entering our prime player-wise. Well, Vossi's only going to become a better coach, right, with time. Yeah. So, I understand the kind of comparison to 2018 in that regard. I think one of the things from this game that is kind of I've been struggling to deal with is every week the thing I'm asking for is showing the effort. and like the boys trying out there and showing that they're giving it their all, and it wasn't happening. And this game, I just felt like every single bloke out there completely gave it their all. And our boys were trying so damn hard to win this game, and we didn't, against poor opposition. And that's kind of what has hurt even more. Because like you said, it's like where does it go to from here? And right now it's just kind of, it's just blind hope that I have. It's not that the players are just going to mature. It's just, yeah, things just have to turn around, and it isn't clear how that's going to happen. And I'm still going to go into every week thinking that this is the week that it's going to turn around, because any week it could, and it's going to turn around at some stage. At some stage, not saying that that's this week or in the next year.
Yeah, no, it's so difficult, and you can't pinpoint anything, and it's rough because I mean the game starts, and all of a sudden, I agree with you. There was this intent and pressure that I don't think we've seen this year of, wow, we're hunting every ball, we're hunting every contest. It was like, oh shit, the boys have kind of come to play intensity wise, which is ridiculous for us to even have to comment on. You feel like this is something that needs to be there every week, but it hasn't been. So you kind of have to mention it in some way. And then it was just those first few minutes just so wasteful with balls inside 50, with what we were doing on the scoreboard. And that then became a tale of the whole game. I thought those first 10 minutes we dominated, but then Sydney are the ones that capitalize, and they go down and score against the run of play. And then all of a sudden the game sort of leveled up, and it was an arm wrestle for most of the game. We had so many opportunities seemingly to explode the game just out of sheer opportunities in front of goal, whether they were good or not. We had them, but we just couldn't wrestle the momentum back in a way because of the poor kicking. I guess, what did you kind of see as the reasons we didn't win that game? You mentioned that the intensity and things like that seemed to be there for moments. Was it just execution like the coaches are saying, or where are you sitting with why we weren't able to get a result in a game that we should be beating, considering the opposition and I guess how the opposition were playing, because they weren't playing great football either?
No. I definitely don't think that they were. I think it is more execution than anything else. I think, let me get my thoughts around this.
No, I've been trying so hard.
I've been trying so hard not to consume other people's opinions, specifically the media, about this since the game, because I wanted to come into this kind of just with thoughts about the game. And I feel like, and from what I have seen though, people are like, it's only execution. Like if we or even just if we were just more accurate in front of goal, we would have won. It's like, well, that is true, and if we were more accurate in front of goal, we would have. But that is completely covering, like, putting band-aids over the cracks, I think, because like it was not just the goal kicking.
It wasn't.
Oh, like that. I can't. You can't have watched the game if you think it was just the goal kicking. Man, the skills. I don't get it. I do not get it. I get it was slippery, but it's every single week.
It's basic skills, and I had a bit of a phone call chat with the great man Pommy and Oz on the weekend, because I was definitely struggling with it all, and we ended up chatting for about an hour. So shout out to that man for getting me through, to be honest. And yeah, it's like all we were saying, and the main crux of everything was, as much as, and we'll chat about everything in detail as we go through this. Our thoughts are going to wander a lot.
Yes, this is
obviously like Vossi game plan, all of that is not necessarily going well. We'll park that for 2 seconds, because even if it doesn't matter what the game plan is at the moment, the way that we are playing football, handballs, kicks, marking, work rate, kicking a goal, mate, it doesn't matter what the game plan is. We can't execute anything. So it does not matter what is getting asked of us currently. We're not being able to do the basics correctly in any facet. And so that's seems to be the compounding issue on top of everything else. Like, yeah, there's so many reasons for that. It feels like we talk about this every single week. And part of me, because of that, I feel like people will click away when they hear this, but it's like, part of me is like, maybe we're close to unlocking this. Maybe it's so close. And the eternal optimist
We've been
me
saying
is
this.
like,
We're
so close to unlocking this, but like, I don't know if I can just keep selling myself that, because it feels so dishonest to say that of everything I'm seeing, because everything feels so disjointed. There's so much lack of belief. I don't believe in what the players are doing. I don't believe in the messaging from everyone inside the club. I don't believe in the current game plan getting the best out of the players. It's like, I'm not believing in anything, but weirdly it feels like we're close to flicking the switch somehow. And it's like we're either so close to turning it on or so close to falling off a cliff, and I don't know which way it's going to go. And it's got me in this weird headspace where I don't know how to comprehend anything currently, and it kind of feels like that's how the fans are as well. At least it doesn't feel like we're alone in this.
No, I agree. I totally get what you're saying. I feel like that's what we've been kind of saying since round one, even when we were winning. It was like, this isn't perfect, but it doesn't feel catastrophic. It feels like it's close to like unlocking, like you said. That's the word I keep coming back to. I'm really exhausted and sick of like speculating on things on like the behind closed door things. Like, not saying that the game plan isn't necessarily a behind closed door thing, but like I just can't. I'm just so sick of trying to understand that. Like I'm just right now focusing on the things that I'm seeing with the eye test watching these games, and the amount of times. And I know I'm like beating a dead horse with this, but the amount of times that we handball, I want to see like a clip of every single handball, and then let's do what percentage of them were fully to our advantage.
Yeah,
a handball. I get that they're under pressure. It's so important that we do the little things right and put things to the guys' advantages. I'm not giving Sam Walsh a vote this week. I'm not sure if you did. I don't want to call him out, but like people are talking about how it's our big names and our guns that are the ones that we should be pointing the finger at.
Yeah.
And I agree, because he needs to be better at setting us up for success. I would never say that he's someone that just is trying to get his numbers up or anything like that. I hate discussion like that, but I know his disposal efficiency probably looks good, but it's these little moments from our big names that are letting us down.
No, it is like if taking everything away, just looking at the players on the field at the moment. Yeah, which one of our top 5 to 10 best players are currently performing up to the standard that they have in previous years so far?
Zero.
Charlie Kerner, probably.
Or Charlie Kerner.
And you could probably say Cherup. Not sure if he maybe would have been that high on our list at the start of the year of guys that were at a level. He's definitely gone up. I think Newman's played well pretty much all season. And then in this game, like the only other one really is probably like Wiedering actually finally turned up this week.
Yes.
Which I definitely want to talk at some stage on, but like that, I mean, this is half the issue, and we're all trying to put blame on something. It's just naturally what we do. We seek for answers and try and find solutions. And even myself, like my forte kind of thing, the way I always look at stuff is list. I love the list management side of things, trading, drafting. It is just where my mind goes. And when I'm looking at so much of this, I tried to spend some of the time on the weekend because we've got the mid-season show coming up soon in the bye where we tend to look at a forward a little bit and see what could happen and get those juices flowing, talking about trades and whatnot for the end of the season. And I was looking at the list and that's where my brain goes. Like, how can we fix this? Let's say it's end of the season right now. What can we do? And even then I'm being like, well, I don't know, because I don't know what players currently are going to still be there, because this time last year, 90% of these boys were like nailed on 22. There's barely anyone we need to bring in. And now you flash forward 12 months and all of a sudden half of these guys do you get rid of them? Like, how can this change so much in a year? And the hard part is that, like, it's the reason we're all so annoyed is that we expected more than this. We thought we were better than we currently are. Now, I don't think anyone really was expecting premiership. Like, I know I struggled to buy into the premiership talk this season. You're a little bit more optimistic in that sense of like dare to dream, go for it. I was a little bit more, I'm not sure because I just didn't think we were there yet. But I think realistically, we're all like, okay, 8 to 5 on the ladder is probably where we are. That's where we all probably expected. I think both of us are a bit more that 6 to 5. But, you know, I was thinking the year would be a bit up and down, maybe like a bit of the second half last year where it was kind of like win, loss, but you win more than you lose, gets us into finals. Maybe win one, get a bit of that finals experience, you know, move on to the next year, bring in some more players, and then really push for it next year. That was how I was thinking. And currently, it just, I don't know where we are. Feels like we're middle of the road, and that's almost harder to fix. Like if we hadn't won a game for the season, it's a lot easier to kind of sort these problems out. But we don't know if we're going to flick the switch, if it's going to be bad. So what do you do with that? And my kind of question for you at the moment is, do we need to reassess and reevaluate where we are now? Do we hold on to hope and go, we're still this competing for final side? Or do we look at things and say, we are where we are right now on the ladder and accept it and plan for that? Where is your, I guess, thinking on that kind of train of thought?
What do you mean when you say plan for that?
Well, if we are, I guess this is probably my kind of list, but also, I guess, around everything else. Like if we're middle of the road, if we're where we basically are in the ladder right now, if that's the quality of us right now, you can't just go into next season and go like, we're just going to get better. You need to make probably a fair few list changes, whether there's coaching changes, whether there's something, there needs to be changes somewhere in the organization to get better, because being middle of the road isn't going to get you there. So do you try to, and then I guess on top of that, do you try to temper your expectations and be like, okay, this is where we are. So do we stop overreacting because we're not where we wanted to be? And do we just put all the energy into we're shit, let's get better? Or should we still be having that high expectation? Like, I guess it's a hard question to answer. I don't know if I have one, but it's a discussion I kind of wanted to have. Do we just keep hoping that it's going to get better and push towards it and believe the group will turn it around? Or do we actively make bigger moves to try and push us further?
But so are you talking about like as us as supporters, or as in the club themselves, like what we are wanting them to do?
Both.
Well, I don't think it really matters what we think. Like, it's not going to change. Like, I guess the point of where I'm getting at is, what can we do if we choose either option, say you're Camp A and I'm Camp B, it's the end of May right now. What is different depending on which path we go?
Well, for the club, it's completely.
I get that a lot can change in September, but now, right now.
Well, it definitely changes the planning of the club and what they do. And I think it was more a question around, we're getting so built up and so frustrated because this is where we should be. True. And I 100% agree that this is the standards that we need to be setting. With finals, that's us. We're the Carlton Football Club. We've got X players that we think are good at football. This is what we need to be going for. And if it turns out that we are nowhere near that we've overrated the list, that the higher players that we thought were superstars aren't, for whatever reason, things aren't working, we're getting so worked up because we believe we're here.
Yeah.
Do we need to be more realistic in going, well, we're not? And then does that then help the way that we react as fans? Or are we simply incorrect in the assumption that we are where we are?
Yeah, that's fair. I think all the supporters are taking this differently. I think for me, it would harm my experience of supporting this club if I did do the latter and just kind of accepted that, just accepted the fact that, okay, like, or kind of rested on the fact that, don't worry, there's going to be pain now, and then we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it in the future. I think I'm too invested in this to do that, and I just want to keep hoping that, like we've been doing every week so far, there can be a week where this turns around. And if there was really tangible things that that could be done right now, like I'm not saying I want this.
Yeah.
But some people are saying that they want to change the coach. And if that was something that we could see a really clear way that, okay, if we made this decision now for some short-term pain, long-term gain, then I can understand that logic. But it's not really clear to me what that would be. Like, it's just too early. I don't want to be Luke Sayers, who's going to judge the whole season at the end. But I understand where that's coming from, because things can change so quickly when we were undefeated 2 months ago. I know we're not that team, but I hope that makes sense. What do you think?
It does. And this is the thing. I proposed the question, but like, I'm definitely not in the camp of accept we're shit and then try to move towards it, because I think we need to be expecting more. And I believe we still are more. And I think that's where the issue lies, that we all still believe that we are better. And I think we are. We are not, because, and this is kind of the reason behind that, is even if we are not a finals team, which the more evidence that comes out, we probably aren't maybe just yet. I don't think we're this bad. And I'm not seeing us get the most out of what we have. That's probably the bad situation when we talk about individual players that have played better in previous seasons. They're down. And I think that that's kind of the issue of what we're getting is not the best out of the group. And so in that sense, it's like, well, we're not this bad because we've seen better. We know it can get better, but we're not at least getting more of some of our parts. That kind of rhetoric. Yeah. But I just thought it was an interesting thing to see and talk about. So were there any other things before we get into some more deeper conversations that you wanted to touch on about that game in particular? Were there any other aspects that annoyed you, things that you could see some positive signs? I know there's not heaps and it's out there, but what did you kind of take from that game? Were you able to see anything else? I know you were very much trying to just, what can I see with my eyes? What can I evaluate? Yeah. So what did you see from this game?
Well, I definitely felt, and I mean, this is the again, another frustration of where we're at. Like a lot of the same things. Not putting it to the forwards' advantage when we go inside 50. Not sure if we've talked about that this season. Oh, wait, 10 minutes every episode.
Every year.
Won't go into that. Yeah, I think it was very similar to me, except for I felt like the effort and the desire was more visible than it has been this season, basically. And that's what made it extra disappointing that we couldn't get it done. So no, nothing too much. Like I actually really like the thought experiment of, is this player playing better this year than last year? Because
there's no
like that. I think that's a really good way of thinking about it. Like when you really break it down in a granular way like that. It's like how can we be that team that we were last year? If I don't know, 3 guys maybe in the whole team are actually playing better. Yeah. So I don't want to finger point at too many people. This isn't a finger point at all, but from about 2 minutes into the game, it felt like, oh, I wish they'd just rested Ollie. I felt like he just didn't. I felt like
big time.
It just wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And it's such a shame that he's gone down now. Just felt like he was exhausted from the get-go, I thought.
100%. I agree with that. It felt like it was a preventable injury in a way, even though it clearly wasn't, because it was like an impact thing. But you just sort of think to yourself, like, man, he needed that rest like 2 weeks ago. And the annoying thing is we have guys that we could have been playing there. Either you take him out and you just go with the 2 wingers in Akers and Cottrell, you're fine. Or you bring in a guy like Binns, you bring in a bloody Zach Fisher who's been playing there a little bit this year. You had options. We chose to keep Ollie in there, and he looked like an 18-year-old that's been playing this much, and he's just a little bit battered and bruised, which is understandable. We expect that at some stage. It's not us,
it's going to be a
potting the bloke. We've seen enough. It's just sometimes these guys need a rest, and that was a frustrating part. I think my frustrating things, it's the same every week. Like, we didn't maximize on their lack of height in defense.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that was okay. Let's exploit it. And we didn't do it. It didn't look like we had a plan to do it. Now, I want to be sure in this that I'm not just saying everything's like a coaching issue. Clearly, it's everything. It's everything at this football club right now. It's not just one. Everything's playing into each other. But like, we needed to isolate so much better with those forwards. I have no issue with us bringing in De Koning as well and trying to, okay, let's put enough height down there that we're going to exploit it. But you can't have them all leading to the same spot. You can't have them cramped up in the same space. Often. Ball comes in, it's a pack. That benefits Sydney. You need to isolate more. Harry is in so much bad form at the moment. The red wine didn't work, Lockie. I thought it might have. It worked well for the Hall of Fame
forgot about
inductee, but it hasn't worked completely. Maybe it needs to be a weekly thing for him. Maybe that'll help, but clearly he's so down in form that you'd think at some stage, considering we're targeting him more than Charlie, that everything else seems to be going okay for him. Up the ground. Isolate
It'll happen this
Charlie
week.
Deep. Why are we not doing it, Lockie?
It'll happen.
Are the players dumb? Are the coaches dumb? Why are we not doing these basic things that clearly equate to better football, making the most out of the opportunities you have?
The only defense that I can think of to that is that I wish we had 5 Charlies, because he's like the best kick in our team right now, and him getting up the ground is so good. But I agree. I think we'll see it on Friday night, to be honest. I think we'll see the switch. They can't keep persisting.
I don't see, this is probably the contrast in us at the moment. Like, I want to be thinking that they're gonna do it this week, but like, they haven't all season, and there's so many little things that feel so obvious that we just don't see them do. Like, you get 3 quarters through that game. Surely at some stage, someone goes, hey, after the 57th bloody inside 50, maybe it's not working. Maybe the man can't kick at goal at the moment. Why don't we isolate and get the only player that we have in form in this team right now some space? And so when we kick it in, when we have a really bad forward entry, they don't just mop it up. And it's just baffling that they don't do it. Obviously the poor finishing was an issue, but it kind of goes a little bit to method as well. Like, we don't give ourselves the best looks at goal.
100% agree. And I actually don't think this is being talked about enough.
No, and it's half the problem. And I think it's part method, it's part decision making. Because there's times that we've moved the ball so slow and we've struggled to get to certain areas of the ground, and it's too crowded, and then the forward entry is just not going to work. But then there's other times there's a player at a short lead. There is space. There is something, and we just don't go for the right option, and instead we target the forward pockets deep on the boundary, or
that's what I was going to say.
Wide angles 40 out plus. Like, they're our chances at goal. It's no wonder. Like, we're not helping Harry Mackay here by giving him awful looks at goal. He's missing the easy ones too, but you're not giving him a lot of easy ones, and you're hoping that Charlie bombs one from 50 on the angle to get you back into it, and then you're wondering why we're so inconsistent at converting. Like, we're not making anything easy on ourselves. And then it goes back to like the simple handballs that we're missing. Like, we're not making it easy for anyone when we're out there. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, it's like we've already spoken about the Harry thing, because there was 2 moments that are just drilled into my brain where he almost took marks on a lead and it like went out of play or got spoiled. And it's like, okay, there was like a 10% chance that he was going to somehow get this mark. And if he did, he's taking a snap from 50 from the pocket. It's like,
how is that the best option? Surely that's not the best option there. Yeah, everything we do is low percentage. And even to that, like, there was still some times, and a few people have made comment of this, so I kind of want to get your thoughts on it. It's hard to truly nail it down, but a few have said that, there was a few times that Harry probably had some markable opportunities, or he could have probably made better out of the opportunity, but he seemingly went with one hand or didn't just sort of go for it. Do you think that there's a part of him that he's so down on confidence that maybe he isn't even aware of it, but subconsciously, because he doesn't want to kick for goal because he's low on confidence, that he's not taking those or he's not going for it 100%? Like, if you're a couple percent off in anything at this elite sport, you're going to be off it. Do you think that there's an element of that in some of the opportunities for Harry where he isn't marking them like he would fully confident because he almost doesn't want to take that opportunity in front of goal?
I definitely think that the confidence in front of goal would be dispersing itself amongst his whole game and the whole way that he's going about things. I have so much empathy for him. It must be like, I can't even imagine how it feels for him just going about training throughout the week in anticipation. Like, obviously every single person wants to tell him what he should be doing differently right now. And it's like, so what? I wonder what he focused on today. Like, what was he trying differently at training? What are all the people telling him?
I think this is the problem.
I have empathy for him.
I feel like half the issue is there's too many voices now. And people disagree with me. And if you do, feel free to leave it in the comments here if you're watching on YouTube, or get us on the socials at Navy Blue Corner. Too far in this episode for me to do the first plug, so apologies, Lockie, on that one. But
no, I get it.
I disagree quite a bit in the discussion of bring Fev down to teach him how to kick. Bring this person down to teach him how to kick. Like, I don't think his problem necessarily at the moment is more people telling him different things to do. I think that that's just not going to help at all. If he spends more time out there working on it, more time in front of goal, no, you need to do this differently. You need to do this. Try to complicate it more. The bloke's already inside his head. Imagine now you're going, okay, I normally did this, but I've got to have my ball here. I've got to hold this. What did he say? Now, what did this guy tell me? Hang on, I can't snap here. I've got it. Mate, good luck. You are you're going to be nothing. Hearing that he works so hard on his kicking, I feel he needs a break. He just needs to stop kicking a goal. No, you're not having any set shots, Harry, because every single miss is going to be amplified. Every time he's practicing, if he misses one, it's going to feel like he's missed 30. He kicks one, he misses the next one. It's like he didn't even nail the first one.
Yeah.
I feel like there's someone smarter than me that understands the psychology of a human and going through this process will probably be able to nail this a lot better than myself. But it feels as if he's almost working too hard on this, and that's potentially making it worse. And I hope that whoever is inside this club understands this a bit more to make sure that we're not going to damage him here, because that's the worry. How much can you get inside his head until this guy's broken and he's never going to be able to kick shots a goal?
Yeah, my opinion is certainly the more rational approach is changing something in the game to be able to build his confidence up, whether that's getting him up the ground so that he's just not putting himself in those positions. Whether it's the complete opposite and we go, all right, you're in the square and nobody else go near him, and it is a one-on-one, and the only way that he's getting the goal is from the top of the square or whatever it is. Like, just doing the same thing over and over is what is not going to work. And like David said in the build-up show, I also think there's something in the fact that, like, this missing and this lack of confidence in the forward 50 is contagious, and that's what we saw in this game. And it's going to get
the pressure builds.
No one's going to want to be the guy to take shots, which is the complete opposite of what we need right now. We want everyone to be goal hungry.
And then that's where you need your leaders to try to build the confidence of the group and instill this fucking who gives a shit that you've just missed 7 in a row. Nail the next one. And it's so hard, obviously, to do that and instill this, but probably goes back to us not having these leaders that are instilling enough belief throughout the club. And it's interesting talking about Harry, talking about the drop punt versus the snap, and controversial opinion. I feel like he does need to go back to the snap more.
Ian Brownie. Go off.
Well, I'm not that strong on it, but it feels like every time the stats come out his goal kicking, It's always the snaps are better at converting. And again, I got to name drop him because the man was chatting some good stuff to me. But Pommy came up with and mentioned something.
He's pretty good, that guy.
Remember when Harry had his best year, Coleman medal winning year? What was a staple that you would expect when Harry Mackay marked the ball inside 50? Do you remember what it was?
Tell me.
Because it was not him going back and taking the full 30. It was almost immediately playing on into trouble and snapping it. Sometimes it got him into too much trouble that he would kick it into the man on the mark or he'd get tackled or whatever. But if you think about this, when he plays on, it's that instinct. He's not taking the time to think about the set shot. He's not in his own head. He's just bang goals. What I want, kick a goal, kick a goal. Do you think that there's an element of like they've tried to slow him down because of his misses and things like this, that now, for whatever reason, inside his head, he's just overthinking everything, and maybe he needs to go back to, I don't know, everyone hates it, but a bit more instinctive. Don't take the full kick. I don't even care if he's going for a drop punt. Almost rush it. Just get it. Let's get it on the boot and go for goal. Maybe that would trigger something because he's not sitting there being like, oh my God, I can't miss this. Oh my. And he slowly walks in and that's all he's thinking about. Give himself less time. Like someone here at the club be like, you don't have 30 seconds. You got 10. Let's make it count. Let's go. 10 seconds to kick this ball. I don't know. Is there something in that? Or am I?
So what you're telling me is Fev into the club? Big no. Pommy?
Pommy, yes.
Get the man in there.
Get that man in there. He'll sort it out. 100% believe that.
I think we need to start a petition for that. It's such a hard thing. It's like do you just keep changing things, or do you just try and get the consistency? Which is like, and that's just not just Harry. That is so many things with this team right now.
Yeah.
Do we need change or do we need stability? Because we need both, seemingly.
That's the question. I mean, we'll get to that, but I want to talk about one more individual player that we're not getting the best out of, that a few have highlighted after the game, annoyingly, because I had it in my notes and then everyone starts talking about it. And I feel like I'm copying everyone. But Adam Saad, I feel as if unlocking Adam Saad will go a long way for us currently, because we're just not getting enough out of him. We don't use him. He's often there for the hands. We don't handball it to him. He's pushing wide as an option. We're not using him. We're ignoring it. We don't look at the wide angles half the time anyway. And I've got a theory that maybe this is also not helping his game. Apart from this, but I'd love your thoughts because it goes on to some other topics that I want to talk about. Do you think that using Doherty in the midfield more and not being there in defense to help him, to be another target, another high-quality caliber player that the opposition are targeting, that they just go, oh, well, there's no other weapons here that sort of propel the ball out that we really need to worry about, that makes it easier for teams to kind of shut down Saad? Is that something that could be an element to helping to unlock him, apart from obviously just handball it when he's there instead of ignoring him?
I haven't thought about this. I can't say that I've thought much about Saad from this game. So let me throw a question back to you.
Oh, here we go.
Who are the guys in our defense? And this may blow up in my face. Who are the guys in our defense that would be giving a hands off to Sardi?
Oh, I'd definitely say the big boys. The big boys.
Is that right? Because I think all three big boys that played on the weekend absolutely love kicking it.
I would agree. And I think apart from...
And maybe that's part of the issue.
Gov, they probably shouldn't. But it feels systematic of the team where they are kind of all taking it on rather than maybe just using that option in Saad that seems to be there a fair bit. And just to quickly touch on the Doherty thing, I'm almost leading you to this because Doherty, please get back in defense, because currently it feels like if Doherty plays midfield, Matt Kennedy has to play halfback. And I never want to see Matt Kennedy play halfback again. He's not good at it. He offers nothing there. And it seems so ridiculous to take out one of the most closer to informed players in the midfield that we have off the couple of sub appearances and whatnot and go, yep, into the halfback flank there because we want Doherty in the midfield. And I can tell you right now, from my opinion, I don't know how you feel, but I would say that we get more out of Kennedy in the midfield than we do Doc in the midfield. And we definitely get more out of Doc in the halfback than we do Kennedy. So what are we doing? And it's these decisions that are making me, I'm baffled by a lot at the moment.
Well, the good thing for you here is that we may not have as much choice moving forward about these
we may not
rotations, unless you want Sardi in there. No, I'm very much in agreement with those things. But I just feel like I've actually made quite a good point, and you haven't haven't kind of given me enough kudos for this.
Okay.
I'm looking at the stats.
What's your point?
Wiedering, 16 kicks, 2 handballs. Gov 15-4, Kemp 12-4.
Handball boys.
Yeah. I agree. Like when Blakey did that stupid run that they showed about 80 times, I was like, God, I wish Sard would do that.
Yeah.
And he's
well, Sydney aren't dumb in being like, oh, what's the one thing that this player does when he gets the ball? Runs through the middle of the ground at breakneck pace and just hopes for the best. Oh, let's just give him the corridor.
Yeah.
They're not that dumb. They wouldn't do that to Sard. They'd actually be like, oh, this is what he likes to do. Let's stop him running here. Let's send him out wide. But I mean, that's just how dumb we are as a football team out on the field.
I want to hear your thought then. So you think that the fact that, like say in this game, do you think it's more based on how the opposition are playing Sard that he's not being able to do this, or it's us not putting ourselves in the right positions and the players having the want to get it to him?
God, do you want to fence it? Because it's both.
Because I don't know. I actually don't have an opinion.
I think it's definitely more us not using him and us not coming up with a way that gets the best out of him. And you've perfectly segued to my next bit. So let me rant for about 20 or so seconds, and then I'll get to the Sard bit. It's in there somewhere. But
I didn't even have a run sheet this week, and I'm still helping.
No, you don't. Well, you've told me no gimmicks, so the run sheet's out the window, and I've made just. I love it. You don't want this run sheet because it is my
secret run sheet,
and you don't want to go in there. It is an absolute mess. But a big issue, and I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, but let's get into it more because everyone's kind of talking about Vossi, game plan, players. Let's delve into the game plan for a little bit. Let's evaluate it a bit more because I don't know how to word this correctly, but it's like, I know the game plan isn't the only issue. Like, clearly we're not executing the basics like I touched on earlier, that it doesn't matter what the game plan is. We can't kick a goal. We can't handball. We can't work for each other. Game plan isn't the be-all and end-all issue. But what's the frustrating thing that I'm looking at is I don't know what our brand or our strengths are.
Yeah.
Like, what can I go in each week and be like, yes, this is what we do. This is what we get. Whether we get outplayed or not, whether we don't have this or this or this, we've got this to look forward to. At the moment, it feels like it's Charlie Curnow, and that's all I can rely on. Where last year, we sort of built this whole identity. Voss comes into the club, looks at what he's got, and he goes, let's win it at the source. I've got like 17,000 bloody inside strong midfielders. I think this is our strength. Let's start and base everything off strong contested side. It's how you win games of football. Win it at the source. Everything else can get built off of this big pillar, basically. This is what we're starting with. And I think every single week, most of it last year, you could say, yeah, wow, contested side of it, strong. Brought the intent at the source. Did we get hurt on the outside at times? Did other things go away? Yes. But I think for the most part last season, you could say, bang, strong contested side, Carlton. What are we this year? I don't think we have anything. It feels like we've moved so far away from what Voss created last year. And then what we've seemingly built in the preseason this year doesn't seem to work, doesn't seem to suit the strengths of the player. And this is kind of where I'll get back to the Adam Sard thing, because I think when a coach comes in, he obviously has a style that he probably thinks is, okay, this is what's going to win you a premiership. This is my ethos of how you win games of football, how you win a premiership. And you tweak things, you've got to tweak things, but when you come into a football club, you also have to go off what you've got. And it was clear that Voss probably came in a bit more and worked with what he saw rather than everything else. And I don't know, weirdly, this season he's almost gone, oh, well, that doesn't work for whatever reason, that other teams have got on top of us. We missed out on finals. We capitulated under the pressure, and he's gone away from that. But I think when you go away from it and try to implement a new system, if you don't have the players for it to fit your style, then you can't really do it. And that's seemingly what it feels like. We go back to, we want to be this more controlled team that kicks the ball. We're a little bit slower and controlled with our ball movement. And it doesn't feel like that suits the strength of us. And I'll go from this, because what do we got? Strong inside midfielders, big, strong power forwards, speed off halfback, some big, tall intercept defenders. What style of brand of football do you reckon would suit the players that we have on this list? Do you think it's a slow, controlled kick mark game style? Do you think that suits that kind of play?
I don't want to interrupt your run.
No, this is sort of a question too. Do you think that based on the best strengths that we have, that the game plan that we're currently playing gets the best out of the pillars that we have to build this list around, compared to, I guess, the game style that we saw last year?
The devil's advocate in me is just wondering whether that style from last year would be working now. Has Hewitt been injured all season without us kind of knowing? What's wrong with Cripps?
They've been out there. So I just don't feel like you can say they're injured because they're playing every single week.
So do you think
step out on the field
this way this season? So has Hewitt been bad this season because of the game plan or because of himself more?
It's hard. I understand where you're probably going with this, and it probably is a bit of both, but I don't think it is. I don't feel like the emphasis on contested ball and the way that we have been going has been getting the best out of these guys. But ultimately, there is a lack of belief, but I think it kind of potentially does stem from game style, is maybe where I'm going.
Well, this may be the most negative comment that I've ever made in the 4 years of this podcast. Get ready.
Oh no!
So can you lead me into it by repeating what you said you think our strengths are?
I would say strong inside midfielders.
Not sure. I'm not sure if are they strong inside midfielders?
Well, they're not outside pace players. They're not burst from the stoppage players. Their strength is ball winning at their peak. You would agree?
Sure.
They're not like a dynamic
midfielder. I understand that their strength is okay, but what I'm more saying is, are they actually strong in the context of this league right now?
Clearly at the season, no. And I feel like that's because the emphasis has been taken off that, because we've been trying to shift towards, okay, maybe that's not 100% sustainable to just win and score from clearance. So we've looked for other avenues, and we've maybe overcorrected in thinking that, okay, this fast, quick handball move through the middle that does then suit the slow midfielder that we have a fair bit of. It's like I feel like last season we were trying to protect them in the way we move defensively. And then because of the defensive issues, which I do agree we needed to sort out, I felt like at times we did need to go, okay, we need to control this. We're not controlling games well. Teams are kicking too much the other way when we're losing momentum. We don't know how to wrestle it back. So an element of this does need to be a bit more of a controlled movement. But it feels like everything's been taken away from, and I don't know whether the players they don't understand it, I don't know what's happened, whether there's just a lack of belief in it, but we tore teams up last year when we had this just move the ball mentality. Richmond, Sydney, Freo, Hawthorn, Port, and Collingwood in that third quarter, there were bursts of this. And it feels like the emphasis has been taken away from that because of when it wasn't working well for us. And I just feel like this balance is completely off.
Yeah. No, I'll stop trying to take the devil's advocate approach and say that I do agree. I do agree with what you're saying. the reason that I'm down on that, the sentiment around that, is because as you rattled through those attributes, and I'm thinking about the guys that underpin them, and I'm like, who are the guys that are those running defenders, and are they actually good in the context of the league? Is Mitch McGovern still a good intercept defender? I'm questioning these things. Like, I understand that that's kind of where our strengths are, but then I'm just wondering whether those strengths right now are enough. Like, if we say that I don't know. I'm just so down on so many of these guys.
No, and it's me, I guess, trying to figure out why 90% of this list is down on form. And why is there this lack of belief? And I think part of me is kind of thinking that changing this style in a way has hurt the confidence of the players, because it kind of has gone away from their strengths and what we saw at our best last year. And pulling away from that has then hurt the confidence of us, because we're struggling to execute this.
Understood.
Clearly, we haven't executed it. And I don't think that the game plan does suit us. I don't think we have great users of the ball. I don't think we cover the ground well to create the options of a bit more of a controlled, moving game style. And because of all of this, it feels like we're losing that confidence. And the question is, like, do you stick fat with it and go, let's keep going with it? Because Vossi himself has been, we're not nailing this clearly. We haven't nailed the game plan. So do you keep going at it until you get it right? You may never get it right. Or do you try to go more towards what we did last year? Because teams couldn't go with it. When we were on that momentum run, it was like, that's the reason why we got excited. That's why people were saying we can win a flag, because when we went in this wave, the momentum was ours, and you got the ball in quick to Harry, you got the ball in quick to Charlie. Holy shit, you couldn't stop us. Yeah. And so I feel like is it stick fat, or do we need to alter this and go a little bit back to what we were doing last year?
Yep.
And trying to move the ball a little bit quicker. But I mean, there's clearly mentality issues, because anytime there's pressure, there's a must-win game, there's something, we crumble. And is that going to your point of, does it matter what happens with these guys, because maybe they're just so mentally done and you can't get it out of them anymore, because they're just like, this is the soundbite, but they're losers. When it comes to win, they lose. And is that just ruined it? And is that unfixable? Like, I don't know anymore.
It's hard to not see that mindset. And you think about Cripps, Walsh, and Weeders as your leadership group, three guys that have never got anywhere near it.
We've got like 3 guys on the list, I think, that have played finals football.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And they haven't played a lot of it. So I guess extend the Michael Voss track. So that was a little bit around the game style. And again, it was a bit of both. Clearly, we both came to the conclusion there. Yeah, game plan probably isn't 100%, but there's clearly issues with the players. Agreed. This is probably my one issue at the moment with Voss in particular, because the game plan one's a tough one, I think, to discuss, because the players just aren't executing it. And unless you're in the 4 walls, it's kind of hard to know exactly whose fault that is.
We need Soj for that one.
Yes, we do. Get those inside scoops. My main issue is we brought this man in as the leadership guru. Like, this was the man that was kind of brought in to change the culture, set the standards, fix the mentality of this group, because they looked completely fractured after Teague and everything that had gone before us. And it was kind of clear that Voss wasn't the tactical mastermind. He was the leadership culture guy. And I was kind of okay with the appointment, because I thought we did need to reset the culture. We needed to build from the base and create strong leadership, because, as you've said, like, these guys haven't played finals. They don't know what winning is. Let's bring in the guy that's instrumental with Port and their leadership programs, that's won everything. He's apparently so motivating. Everything about him is going to build it from the start. And I think we could all agree that leadership and everything around that culture was something that we needed to build here that we didn't have. We needed a culture reset. I think so far, haven't really seen any signs of this strong leadership. And that's the issue. Like, so far, these players, they're so bereft of leadership or belief of anything close to what success is now. And that's kind of why I'm losing faith, because it feels like the one thing we brought him in to do at the moment. And I know it's not just him. You can't just say it's all on him to build this. There's other elements as well. But the negativity for me comes from, this was his strength. This is what we were meant to get. And it feels like we're getting worse in this area. He's meant to be this relationship leadership king. That's not working. We're not getting the tactical side that there were question marks over. And it's just kind of this rut. And I think a lot of it goes towards as well the external messaging that we seem to be getting from Voss, and that the players are bringing externally that seemingly stems from the message from Voss that is making us question this leadership on field.
I think it's fair to have that discussion now, but I don't think it's fair to say that we've never seen that, because 12 months ago, there's no way you would have said that statement. You wouldn't have said, we're 8-2, but I haven't really seen any leadership yet, or him kind of turn the culture around.
I think that the thing was, the big question mark at the end of last year was when the pressure came at the end of last season. When pressure came on our leaders, they faltered on field.
We were a point away from finals. Let's just remember that too.
I get this, but if you look at the situations that we had, it was like we were the biggest bottle jobs in this. Have to win against Adelaide, didn't rock up. Had to win against Brisbane, didn't rock up. Finally showed something against Melbourne, bottled it. Didn't 100% rock up against Collingwood, had the lead of 24 points, bottled it in that last quarter. So I understand that there's still situations in this of we had opportunities to win, but the big rhetoric was these players mentally look fragile when the moment is there to be won, because unfortunately the evidence was, for the most part, we lost those big games, which is what you kind of base it off. So the big talking point off season was he needs to turn this around with the leaders. And I guess everything was kind of off the back of that, and it's looked like it's gotten worse. That's where I guess my point of, so far, I don't feel like I've seen enough of this galvanizing leadership, because everything was all good last year. There wasn't there wasn't a lot of adversity. This year, the pressure's come on, the players and the coaching group. It's got to be finals. You failed last year. And it feels like now that the pressure's there, I'm not getting this leadership Michael Voss. I believe everything you say. I'm backing the boys with you. I feel like every time I hear him speak, I'm falling further off wanting to ever hear him speak. That's where my issues with the leadership is coming from. It doesn't feel like I'm galvanized anymore. And I think that's the issue with the fans at the moment. The rhetoric and the messaging coming out is a bit of an issue. And I know you kind of wanted to touch on the press conference a little bit. So if you did have anything, key points to take away from that, I'm keen to hear your thoughts on that as well. Yeah,
the only comment from the press conference that kind of got me, like, I didn't understand it, and I feel like he has a lot of go-to lines, Vossi, and a lot of these coaches do.
They do.
But he, and I'm not directly quoting him, but he said something along the lines of, there were parts of this game that looked more like us than we have all season.
I've got the somewhat direct quote if you want it.
Go ahead.
It was me writing it down. So there might be a word or two that he started that I've slightly changed it, but it's basically the same thing. He said, loved aspects of our game. It was more us than any time throughout this year. He did caveat that saying, but there's some simple things in the game that we need to get better at, and that's finishing. But I think the issue with around that, and apologies to kind of cut you off there, is that he was saying that he loved aspects of the game, that was probably the best we've looked, but it's all seemingly down to the conversion and execution in front of goal. And he kind of kept talking about that, where he was blaming in front of goal as like the only reason we seem to really lose that game. He didn't seem to emphasize anything else as the problem. It was like, we were perfect. We were so good. That's the best Carlton I've ever seen. We just couldn't kick in front of goal, which just seems so beyond the reality that I think anyone else saw in that game. And he even said something that I couldn't believe, which was, I think there were a lot of players that had a really great games tonight.
Yeah, that was
really great. Ooh. I mean, I thought Wiedering was really good.
Yep. I thought Cottrell was good.
I thought Cottrell was good. I thought Sam Walsh was decent. You obviously had a bit more issues with his disposal. That was kind of it for me.
Me too. Yeah. We kind of spoke. We spoke in depth the other week about like the press conferences, and I'm clearly less opinionated on what comes out of that, and I don't care if he just gets through the media talk, with this like cliches and that kind of thing. But yeah, those two comments did stick out to me because I can't even understand. I want someone to show me the timestamp of where we looked better than we have.
Yeah,
I don't remember it.
And then it's frustrating when Wiedering comes out and sort of repeats the same rhetoric. And that's kind of what I was talking about, I guess, with the leadership and passing that on to players where, Wiedering comes out after the game and goes, man, that first half was some of the best football we've played. And it's like, what are we watching? Like, is this just what we believe now, that that's the standard of us? Like, I have no issue with them. And maybe that's what Voss tried to do, but the execution didn't hit for me. I have no issue with them trying to find a positive in things and being like, look, if you want to find the positive, I thought that, which he kind of said, he said the defense absorbed a lot better and we were providing a bit more pressure than normal. And I would agree with that. It was like, Wiedering played a lot better at the defense. I thought we held a lot better. There was definitely aspects of that game that was probably better at times than what we've seen, but it's still so far away from what is required, which is why we didn't get the win. But it's like that emphasis on it not working, I'm not getting. That I don't realize why then they're afraid to talk about it. It feels like everything coming out of the club is like trying to be so safe in the wording as to not sound negative on what's going on. And that's making everyone more negative on it because it's like, just admit it's not going well. Just say, hey, we're not winning games of footy. There's so much that's shit.
But then Chompers will be at Icon Park every bloody night, mate. Eating it up. Well, Chompers.
Do you want me to get into half the issue there? I feel like I've sworn heaps on this, but have the balls to be like, I don't care what you say, Chompers. Tom Brown, fuck off. I'd actually love if
that's a good soundbite.
Anyone saying it, but if Luke Sayer said, Tom Brown, suck on what I've got. Seriously, get stuffed. I could not give two shits what you parasite have to say. We know what we're doing at this football club. We know things aren't going great. So what, mate? Park out here all week. I'm not going to speak to you. I don't care because we know what we're doing in here and we're figuring it out. And we're not going to bow to the pressure of what you guys are peddling out there. I think that's the issue. It's like they're so worried that the media is going to write stuff about them. They're writing it about them anyway. Blues in turmoil is the headline tonight on Monday night. And and they're not being proactive in really getting ahead of the narrative and trying to drive it for themselves. They're trying to be safe. And fans are getting more pissed off. Reporters are getting into it, being like, what are you guys saying? This clearly isn't it. Like, they're not making things better for themselves, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't have a strong take on this, but I love it. Love the energy. Yeah. What are you talking about? What? Since when can we not swear on our freaking podcast?
It just feels weird. It feels weird. I've got some bad stats for you if you want them before I get into my club unity.
Especially bad ones.
Yeah, we've got some bad ones for you. It's rough. So talking about I probably should have brought this up earlier, but it was too low in my run sheet, so I've missed out on it. But talking about inside 50s, you want doom and gloom, I've got it for you. So let's go to the Sydney game. 59 inside 50s to their 52. We scored 6 goals, 15 from that. Pies game. 51 to 51, leveled it. We scored 57 points. They scored 85. Dogs, We had 2 less inside 50s. It was 50 to 52. We lost 59 to 79. Lions, equal inside 50s. We lost 74 to 100. This is damning on what's going on currently. So from those 4 games, that is 207 inside 50s for 241 points. Compare that to the opposition. That's 202 inside 50s for 341 points. We've had 5 more inside 50s for negative 100 points.
Makes sense.
That is...
I believe you.
Brutal. It's brutal.
It is brutal. There's so many things about it. We could talk for an hour just on what an inside 50 means to us.
And do you want another bad stat?
Do I ever?
Since the bye last year, there's been 22 games. We've won 8, drawn 1. Hawthorn from the same 22 games.
Yeah, I have seen
won 7. We've won 1 more game and drawn 1 more game than Hawthorn has since the bye last year.
Wow. Now you're just making me want to be optimistic again, Ian.
How is that making you optimistic? How is that making you optimistic?
Because we're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around. It's all going to be okay.
They're losing me, okay, Lockie. Mate. It's rough. Like I'll be the first to admit that's the first game since about I can't remember what year it was. It was I reckon it was before 2018. There was a game we played against Adelaide, probably a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. I know Matty Wright was there. Turned it off. I think that's the last game I've turned off before the final siren. This is the first one since. So I need to find out what year that was in. It was a horrific game of football.
Remember? We should watch that back so we feel better about
what's currently going on. Yeah. And all of this frustration from us stems from the fact that we think we're better than this. We think we can be better than this. And as I think you are, it's like 20-something points. Didn't happen. And like, obviously,
looking forward to my tips this week.
It's all just words, and we can all think that, it can turn around because all the reasons players we think are better than this, we've seen better than this. Until you see it, it's hard to keep the faith. And that's the tough thing. That's where I'm struggling right now to be optimistic because I'll throw a big question at you. I'll throw a big question.
Let me prepare my fence. But go ahead.
I guess if this is where we're at currently, end of the season, what do we do?
That is such a good question. I'm glad I had my fence at the ready. And you don't believe that we can make decisions like that now. I know you don't. It completely depends on how these next 11, 12 games go. Who knows? Who knows?
I hate that you're so optimistic because I'm so down on this and I want you to feed my energy, but you're just like...
That's not optimistic.
You're what I need, but I don't want it, if that makes sense.
We could turn into West Coast where we suddenly don't have a fit AFL listed player.
Well, it looks like that. Have you heard the news about Pitternet as we're recording this?
Yes, I have.
Broken hand. My God, we're in strife.
We've gone from the healthiest list basically in the league to where we are now. So I'm saying, like, there's still a whole bunch of ways we could finish this season. It's just too hard to know. And I'm going to be saying I told you so when we are 8th.
Look, part of me is hoping that kind of like the back end of last year, those last 2 games when like we're forced to make changes through injury. And maybe even through last year when we saw the emergence of a Lewis Young early into the season, things like this, that these injuries force us to make a change and that change works.
Yes.
And then we're better off for it. Part of me is praying that that's what's going to happen, even though there's no evidence of it. It's kind of what I'm hoping for. But speaking of Pitternet, let's go negative. 4-year deal. Been the talk of the town. We didn't cover this in our build-up show. Forgot to. You probably don't, but you have much of an opinion on the 4-year deal and the list management around it. I'd love to hear your take.
You'd love to hear my take. Well,
I would love to.
You know that I love the mainstream media. But the mainstream media reports, as you would know, were that there was all this interest in him and that us doing this was required if we wanted to keep him because he was getting interest in long-term deals elsewhere. Do you know how much money he signed for?
No.
Then I cannot make a good judgment on whether this is a good deal or not. Because if it's 600 grand a year, then it's horrible. And if it's 50 grand a year, then we're laughing. So there's no way I can have a good opinion either way. Like I can't.
I guess this is maybe it's loaded. Maybe I don't know. If you say there were other teams desperate for him, and for us to keep him, we had to do this. Is he that kind of player that's worth us going above what maybe? Let's take this perspective. If we had to give him more seasons or more cash or whatever it is, or more than we wanted to keep him, is he the kind of player that's worth that?
I think without the variable of understanding what this deal is, like it's like we're talking about, we know the player and we know. I have a feeling this is going to be a really big brain thing that I've just thought of. So this.
Oh, here we go. I'm excited.
Could be really bad. You let me know. We know the player, isn't it? We know the length of the deal, and we don't know the money.
Yeah, big.
So what if you change it? What if you change another variable? Let's say that we know that it's a 3-year deal and it's $200K a year, but you don't know the player. Is that a good deal or not? That would be ridiculous to say whether it's a good deal or not.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that I feel like I've walked myself into a point of view that I don't have for the sake of this argument, because I am not, which is great. I want to catch you up on it, see where you land, and then I end up agreeing with you. Because look, I'll say, and I want some of your opinions on this. I think you'll understand which parts it is. I'm not sold on him being our number one ruck. Would you agree?
Completely agree.
You don't think he's... Yes. Now,
I'm not certain that he is going to be our number one ruckman in 4 years. God, no.
Yes. So my thing on this, which I think is similar to your sentiment on this, is I think he's a good backup or somewhat first choice while we're nailing our first ruck.
Yeah.
As long as, if he stays at the performance he is, he's not our main ruck for the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a backup. And he's on backup money is the main thing. If he's on backup money for 4 years, we end up bringing someone in. Could not care less. I still think 4 years is a bit long, because I don't love long-term deals, because he could do his ACL next week, his body dies, and what do we do with him on our list for the next 3 years?
Maybe there's clauses in there for that.
Those are the issues I have with long-term deals. But if he's on no money, if he's taken even less money than he was potentially on now, or on the same money, which we all assume is not a lot, backup ruckman money, let's say, for the next 4 years, and you've nailed in, at worst, a kind of serviceable number one ruck, or backup, definitely more than serviceable backup ruckman, with still a potential to progress. We don't know. He could become a lot better player. I don't think it's the worst deal in the world. And again, it goes down to we don't know what the money is. And I assume, and this is where people, like, everyone has different thoughts on this, but it's like, normally what would happen in a contract negotiation is players want security or they want money. Sometimes you can get both if you're a good footballer. He would be going, look, he could maybe, I'll throw a figure out there. Let's say he's like, I could get 500 a year at X club, but they're only offering me 2 years. So I don't know what the security of that is. I could take 350 at Carlton and maybe get 4 years. And maybe that costing Carlton more because we're paying him more over the length of the deal in general. But sometimes maybe if we've met him halfway and gone, hey, we'll give you more years if you take a lot less, it then allows us to move things around. And if he's on such little cash, then even if his body does break down, maybe it's not that much that it matters. Maybe these second rucks, like you see in the market, are so easy to give to another team, particularly with the low value of cash. I think my only concern of the deal, which again is such a hypothetical, is, do we think he's our number one ruck? And if so, regardless of money, I find that an issue based off what I'm seeing right now.
Yep. I like lots of things you're saying. The other variables that come to mind that I'll throw in, maybe they know that De Koning's leaving.
And they need a ruckman.
And they don't know who else we would bring in. And then the other thing I'd throw out there is, so who's our third best ruckman right now?
Jack Silvani.
Oh yeah, well, sorry, third best player who's
Lewis Young
is ruck.
Murkov or O'Keefe. Maybe flip a coin with that one. Yeah,
I'd feel much better if Pitt is that guy in 4 years. Like, say that he hasn't lived up to everything, but I'm just assuming there's just no way that this is big money. Like, I cannot believe the overreaction to this thing. I understand all the points you're saying. I don't love the long-term deals either.
If it was 3 years, I don't think there'd be an issue. It's that extra year that is the issue. But again, like we've said, I think there's reasons for it. It's probably not the most ideal thing ever. And I don't think he's that kind of person for us to bend over backwards. I think we probably could have been harder and been like, mate, it's 3 or fuck off. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of what we maybe need to do. But if he's on $10 a week, sign him up for 10,
Well, imagine if they both left this season because we wouldn't give him the 4, and then Andrew Phillips is now our ruckman. It's like, okay,
is he that much better than? Is he that much worse than Pitt?
Sure, that's another discussion that you can have for sure.
It's another one. What other things did you want to cover, Lockie, about how you're feeling about Carlton, or any things in the community that you're seeing that you want to give a different spin to? Is there anything out there? I'm sort of opening this towards you. Anything that we haven't covered that you would like us to?
I mean, we've been going for some time now, so we've covered a lot of my talking points. The only other kind of thing, which I guess I quickly slipped in there, you kind of made a good point about, like, when the things aren't working, maybe that makes it a good time to be able to change things up.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have some different players on the field on Friday, and they're not going to be as big names as the guys that were out there last Friday. But is there optimism there for you?
I mean, there's too many outs if they're all out, is my worry.
Dow, 3 votes?
Well, imagine if they don't pick him. Could you imagine? Imagine if Chera, Hewitt, Cripps all out and they go, nah.
You're a little bit under that pecking order, mate. You're our 9th inside mid. You need to understand that.
Holland's being out, it's frustrating because you just don't want him to get injured. You want him to be able to take a week off, then go back into the 2s, get some form back. But I don't think we're hurt massively by that injury. Hewitt hasn't been amazing, and maybe this allows Kennedy to get back into that midfield. The Newman one hurts because he's been so good.
Your man.
Probably my man. I think that's where maybe a Chin Cotter comes into it, and it's like you're not getting as solid defensively there. And then the Cripps one, he hasn't been playing amazingly, but it's obviously Cripper. You want him out there. I'm excited in the sense of I just want to see what Paddy Dow can do.
Me
just
too.
Give him a run, please. Let's see what he can do, please. Give him more than 1 week.
Can you already see the people on their high horses on Twitter on Friday night? It's either going to be all the Paddy Dow haters being like, see, or him just having the most of a blinder game ever, and all the people being like, sack Voss, how has this kid not been playing? It's just going to be beautiful one way or the other, and I might need to delete my Twitter app before then.
It's gonna be bizarre, but I don't know if it gives me optimism. But I mean, it's change certainly. I've got one main thing. If you've gotten this long, you're gonna get a big monologue from me. I speaking to you before we recorded. I don't know if you have the greatest amount of opinion on this, but it all kind of goes towards this club unity. And I'm not trying to point fingers at like who needs to go, anything like this, but it's like obviously there's pressure coming onto things. And we've seen how things have happened before around coaches, around things happening. And I am not sold in any camp just yet. I said I wanted to get to the bye and have a bit more of a point of view. It feels like we're at the bye with what I've seen, but I don't know if you can, I don't know what positive we necessarily get right now if Voss is to go.
Agree.
What can you bring in right now that would automatically make us better? Because like this happens in like soccer. I don't know if it happens in basketball a lot, but like
it does.
Some like in soccer, literally, it's like you sack a coach mid-season. There's so many different people you can bring in that have experience in different leagues and things like that. It's a different kettle of fish, but bloke comes in, all of a sudden you can just turn your season around. When has that ever happened in AFL that a coach has come in and so much has turned around and they've all of a sudden like gone from our situation of meddling in the middle to like, wow, we're playing finals football. And then you're good to keep going forward. I don't know what.
I don't think so.
That is. But I think
good point.
My kind of thing is like we've clearly run out of patience as fans and everyone. Like we want results now. It's why we bought Voss in the whole thing. It was like, we're here. The list is ready to go to start to build towards finals. We brought him in because he was this, what's the word? The experienced coach is why we sort of brought him in. But my bigger issue on top of that is like, I don't have a lot of faith in the decision makers and trust in them to make the right decision towards the right path towards success. Like, and stop me if you have any thoughts throughout this, but
sure.
Like it's a big if, but if they think we've got the right guy and the right people and the right everything, this isn't just Voss, it's everything, then we have to stick fat and we can't be reactive to the outside noise and pressure.
Mm-hmm.
If there are issues anywhere in any position, then we need to grow a pair, make a decision, make the required change, regardless of what effect it has on the individual. My worry is that the people we have in there, I don't trust their decision-making. I don't know if they're truly educated and smart enough to make these correct decisions and be proactive if we do need change, or whether they'll just be reactive and bow down to the pressure of the big power brokers and everything that's gone on. That's where I'm a little bit worried. And you've got like board issues at the moment. Craig Matheson steps down following the loud vocal spat between the president in the rooms after the Sydney game. And it's like, look, I'm not incredibly well-versed on things, but probably a good thing he's gone, considering the issues and the whispers you always hear with the Matheson family. Obviously, his uncle comes out and absolutely berates the club, and the way that these people with their money, it feels like they're trying to get more power into the club, and they may not necessarily have the football brain for it. If that's the kind of people they are, and the leaks and things like that, get the toxic out, don't care. It's not my issue. My issue is more on, we need to stop looking for the old success and start forging our own path, whatever that is. Because there's already talk about, we're going to bring in Hardwick, whether he's a coach, whether he's director of coaching, whether he's a senior assistant, we've got to get Hardwick in. Or, fans are throwing out a Nathan Buckley. Like, there's always another person that whenever something is slightly going bad at this football club, it's, we've got to get him in. Get this guy out immediately. We've got to go for what was the best 10 years ago. We should have got Ross. Yeah. We should have got Clarko. We should have got what was good 10 years ago. And it just, I don't have a source. I know nothing whether we have been approaching these people. But how about we look for the next superstar coach rather than looking back? Whether this is assistants, whether it's director of coaching, whether it's whatever. Like, I'm sick of us being reactive. Stop looking for stability in previous success. Because that doesn't mean stable. And I feel like we need to look for new strategies, new ideas in everything. And it doesn't have to be from AFL. You can look at other sports and try to find out what the best things are that we can be taking a bit from this and creating our own thing. It feels like we're always looking for something, and whether this is correct or not, but it's like, and I agree with the Cookie appointment, but it's like, are we just looking for what's worked somewhere else? Are we looking for Voss because he's just won premierships somewhere else? Or are we looking for the best things altogether? Like, if Voss needs help, it's far from ideal because he brought him in as this experienced guy. And we had this review to sort of sort out these things. And we got told we were bringing in the right people to support Voss, and it's all good. But like, if there's positions that need help, you just got to have the balls and make them. Like, you can't be worried that people like me and like you potentially going to come out and be like, but you told us it was all good. It's like, just make the right decision. But yeah, I think we just need to stop looking for the easy choice of the Dimmer or the Buckley. Identify the next bloke with the unique ideas. Like, find what fits the criteria. And if we don't know the criteria, which is my worry on all this, then we need to get rid of the people, because we're talking about stability, but CEO is only here for another year. Same with the president. He might be out earlier with what's going on in his business.
Why is CEO only here for another year?
He said he was only going to come across for the 3 years, and then he was going to basically retire as a CEO.
End of
and
he's
part of here to be the succession plan, bring someone else in. President can only be here for another year in the Constitution. He might be out earlier with the PwC allegations and what's going on there. I don't have a clue in it, so I can't comment. Coach is only signed on for another year. Like, we need stability in this, but the people that are here to create the stability aren't going to be here in a year. They're making 5-year plans, but they're not going to be here. So that's slightly worrying. And it feels like we haven't created this. And maybe I'm wrong. But we need stability and understanding our path, the culture, the goals, the plan to get there, united front to achieve these goals. You can stray from the path. I think that's fine, because you've got to evolve as things are going on. You can't just be like, well, this is what we wrote 100%. You got to follow it. Sometimes you need to slightly readjust. But I think everything needs to go back to the values and goals that you've set in leading you forward towards success. And whatever that is, to make the right call. Like, I'm sick of this wanting a quick fix, whatever. Everything needs to be back to it. And this goes to the stability for the sake of stability, that at times it can feel like, well, we're keeping Voss because we want to be stable. And it's like, but is that the right decision that goes with your path towards success? Because if you're not sure Voss is the right guy, but you're keeping him because you want to be seen as stable, then you're making the right call. So I think my call to arms right now is just make the decisions based on our plans and our goals, whatever that is, what it is, it will be. But make sure it's focused towards the success of this football club. Make the decisions that align with the vision, and have the balls to put the club first over your ego, over your own job. Whether the decision that leads towards success is sacking someone that means I'm going, means that I'm not right to fit because I no longer work towards the vision of this club, whether it's staying course because that suits the vision of this club. It just feels like we're going down this path of jungle drum beating, and we're going to go towards something because we're scared that Voss isn't the right man, and we're scared of everything. And I just want us to hopefully have a distinct vision and plan of how to get there with people that know how to do it. And any decision we make aligns with that, whether it's keep, whether it's sack, whether it's I don't care who stays at this place or goes. I think that's my worry. That's kind of my big monologue anyway. Hope it made sense. It wasn't too rambly.
It did. It made a lot of sense. And it's really hard for me to respond to, because I really agree with most of the things you said there. I think it's spot on. And they're the things that I want too. And the issue that I have with it, and I feel like this is a lot of people need to think about this in the Carlton community, is that all of those things are great, and it is just so much easier said than done.
100%.
And earlier you said, when you were having a little moment of optimism, you said, well, maybe we're close to just getting everything to click. And if that's what Luke thinks, then why wouldn't he back him in? So I agree that I hope all the things that you say are happening. It's just, wow, it is such an incredibly complex world, and we make it, and you made it sound so simple and easy there. And you'd be the president if it was. Truly.
I would not take the job for the fact that I don't think I'm anywhere near qualified to understand how a football club needs to be run, with no experience in there, in the helm of anywhere. I wouldn't take it.
Well, as with all these things, I'm always open to hearing who you think that unproven coach is, who that next president-elect that will be the one to bring us all together. You know,
No, I couldn't tell you. It's just yeah, it's just the hope that whatever decisions get made, that they're not made because someone's telling them we need to make a change. It's like, no, well, this is the plan. This is what we believe suits the plan. That's the decision we make, whatever it is. And I think that's kind of the rhetoric I want. The issue does come that I don't necessarily trust these people, but I hope that whatever decisions they are making is because they believe those are the right decisions for the football club. Is
there anything that they can do to win your trust that isn't wins?
I don't know. I think that's the hard part. There's wins. There's better messaging. Like a bugbear is like we come out so far after the fact, it feels like Says comes out because there starts to be kickback. When how much were we praising the fact that we got a video the first time he announced himself? And when was the last time we got any video of people from inside the club talking about anything? I also understand that the more we hear, the more we don't want to hear, because it's like, well, what can they say that changes your mind? You can only say we're going to work on this so many times before anything happens. So I empathize with how hard the situation is. I just hope they're a united front. The hard part with the Craig Matheson thing, and this isn't his situation because I don't know enough to understand it, and I don't necessarily agree with it from what I've heard in this situation, but it's like you hear, I guess, on face value, someone doesn't agree with the decisions being made that's on the board. That's like, I don't think that that's correct. However they're doing it is a different question, but let's take that at face value. And they've gone, you don't agree with the vision, so you're out. Obviously, it probably stepped too far one way, and so he did need to go out there because he was potentially toxic and not aligning to the values. But it slightly worries me being like, well, is this someone that's just going against everything? Or is this someone is there going to be someone that comes into the board that disagrees with things, that's trying to be like, well, we agree on the end goal, but how we get there, we're debating this. But because someone doesn't align 100%, that the people on the board are going to be like, no, go away. You're not part of this anymore because you don't agree with us completely. And it's hard. That is pure speculation on my part of, well, you don't know what's said. You don't know what's not agreed upon that would cause these things. But there's just the worry about that, and the fact that when you get conspiracy theorist into the tinfoil hat into how you become on the board in the first place, you have to go through an independent special committee, and then they get to decide whether you can even go on and be elected, go for the ballot or whatever, the vote to be on the board. And you're like, well, how hard's that to get through? Who do they select? Who don't they select? How independent it is? All those things. Because you want people challenging is my kind of thought. And I just worry how much they're able to listen to that. Taking this situation aside, I think that's different, but that's kind of my slight worry. Can they listen to different voices giving different opinions, or are they very much like, you're disagreeing with me, my ego can't cop that? You'd hope that they're able to have civil conversations, which is obviously not this one.
I feel you. Bit of a Succession-like scenario there.
Well, I've just started that show, so I'm keen to see it. And ending tonight, and I'm 3 episodes in the first season.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
Well, we've gone long, but we've got plenty to go. Give me some listener questions, Lockie.
Mate.
Let's go through them.
We've not going
long enough. We
I'm
may as
cutting
well
you off
keep going
after a couple because this has already been too much for me. But we've got 2 kind of types of questions, because you ask the questions after the game. There's a bit of a brand there. And then the questions tonight are a lot more.
I'll be speedy.
How would you say the questions tonight are? A bit more
balanced, maybe, which is like myself.
Balance is good. Lots of people telling us not to bother with a podcast this week is good.
I did say I wasn't sure if there was going to be one, and that was very reactionary from me.
And me. No.
I definitely felt, I've never felt so, why am I bothering doing this? I'm not happy. But
Timmy Dub said to let it all out.
I think we did.
Matt Lynn said, think he might throw up. Toilet or bucket? Are you more of a toilet or bucket guy here?
I'm a toilet man.
Me too. Who has a bucket?
I don't have any buckets. I think that's now you got to clean the bucket. Too
hard. Just going through them. Yeah, look. Do you resent the person responsible for grooming you to become a Carlton supporter?
No, because I don't think I would be anywhere near as passionate about football if it wasn't this football club and everything around it. And I love that, even though it was bad. Even though it was bad as probably would have been Brisbane, big bandwagoner, me when I was like 6 years old. But no, it's everything around the football, and this is probably the positivity part of it. The experience is the fact that all my family go for the Baggers, chat with the grandparents, chat with family. It's those moments that's why you go for this club.
Shout out to Robbo and Chris Brownie for bonding on Friday evening.
How about that? I need to hear some details about this.
I was laughing and laughing and laughing.
Weird crossover. We love it. Support the WA Blues if you go over.
He was like, "Oh, I've just met this ripping bloke from the WA Blues," and I was like, "WA Blues? Oh, you need to go find Chris Brownie." And he's like, "Wait, this guy?" You're joking.
Unbelievable.
You are joking. I'm just trying to pick one winner. Superbad was wanting to talk about the handballs to Sard, which we've talked about, which is good.
Yeah. Give him the ball. Feed him.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's so hard for me to pick one good one. Give me a quick 30-second Ian monologue while I pick a winner that we can wrap this up on.
Well, I might quickly go through the votes while you're going through
votes.
If you want, want to be able to find stuff, I'll go through my votes. So I gave one to Matty Cottrell because I thought his effort intensity. It looked like he was trying to get things moving for us. So I gave him a 1. Controversial to Lockie, I gave Sam Walsh 2. Understand there were moments of poor disposal, but I just thought out of the midfielders, out of everyone trying to make things happen, he was again one of the better ones out there. I was in an argument with mates being like, Sam Walsh is having an average season. And I was like, he's lower on what he's been at. But it's like he's missed so much footy. He's had the back injury. He had back surgery. I think he's been playing better than average. He's been one of our better ones. So I disagree with that. Gave him the 2. And then Jacob Wiedering, interesting to see him have such a big game this week. First quarter was almost sub him out. But apart from that, he came back. His intercept ability was there. His kicking was there. Decision-making. That's the Jacob I want to see. I don't know if the money came back into his bank account, what's going on, but whatever happened, Jacob, I'm so happy. Please keep that up because we're desperate for it down in defense. And I hope that hope we see a bit more of that. Quickly before you find those listener questions, who did you give your votes to? And I'll give a bit of a tally. We're doing a running tally. Ooh. We've got the spreadsheet up and about, and I'll give a tally from about 10th to 1st. Who have you voted for this week?
Exciting. I went for Wiedering 3, Cottrell 2, and even though he was a little bit wasteful, I've gone Charles for 1.
Yeah, that is absolutely fine. We are okay with that. So the running tally. In tied for 9th, we have on 6 votes, Jay Wiedering and Al Young. Interestingly, like I said before, I think Young got both of those 3s in the first game this season. So very interesting there. In tied 7th place with 7 votes. There's a bit of numerology in that one. S. Doherty and M. Always tied there in 7th place. In 6th, it is currently P. Cripps with 9. Again, something about these numbers. In 5th place to ruin everything is B. Akers with 11. Tied 3rd with 13. N. Newman and S. Walsh. In 2nd on 16 votes, currently trailing the leader is A. Chera. And running away with it at 23 is C. Curnow. That's our tally at the moment. Anything could still happen, but Charlie Curnow is definitely running away with the votes. What do you have question-wise, Lockie?
I've got 2 for you. This one I'm keen to hear your thoughts on. So this is from John Gauchi. Can all Carlton supporters ring Talkback Radio? Stop doing it. You are making fools of yourselves and all of us. What's it going to achieve? The only thing it's doing is making opposition supporters laugh at this great club. Just wanted to hear if you had any thoughts on that. We saw on the news tonight, old mate camping out at Icon.
I did see
Giving
that.
the boys a stare down. Did you see this?
I did see this.
Yep. Giving the players a stare down. Do you have any kind of commentary on, how everyone's kind of reacting to the current state?
It's so hard to make a comment knowing I'm living in a glass house. Like, we do the podcast, so it's very hard for me to be like, well, someone else giving their opinion. No, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so harsh for me to criticize someone else, but I will. No.
Okay.
Firstly, I think that part of me, again, tinfoil hat on me, but I feel like half the people that do ring up aren't even going for that team. Because, like,
wow, that's a big tinfoil.
Surely there are so many, like, nuffies of another team to be like, oh, I'll go on, pretend I go for this club, and like, oh, I'm spewing up on myself.
Really?
Surely there's someone doing that, acting like an absolute fool to make it bad. Because how many people like comment under bloody tweets and things like that, pretending to be a different supporter to like enhance it? Wouldn't surprise me if there's some people out there with too much time on their hands.
Interesting.
Pretending to go for a team. But I just think that obviously the talkback radio, it's like the Facebook comments of the world where you get the very overreactive, over emotional people. And I do agree. I feel like a lot of the time it's very, you weren't very sensible with that. But I don't know. I don't want to, if someone from our audience does ring in, I don't want to be rude to those, but like, who are the kind of people that do ring into those places? The sensible people that give their opinion after a game. Go on Blue or Broad on the fan cams straight afterwards. That is a sensible discussion of Carlton supporters every single time. There's some good debates.
Every single time it's sensible.
It is sensible, mate. I've spent a lot of time listening to that. And you get some heated people, but it's not ridiculous. Everyone's able to take a deep breath, give their opinion, but it's not anything that gets clipped and made fun of. But I do agree with him. Sorry for making that a long answer. I was trying to be short, but...
No, I threw that one as a saucy one at you to see
go off.
I think this might be the longest review we've ever done, so I'm going to give you this one for you to do what you always do, which is give some optimism to the people. So from @SoRaceboy458, the only question I can think to ask, where to from here? I genuinely don't know what steps we can take that would be actually productive. Have you guys got anything? Halfway through the season, mate, where to?
Well, where are you going to be there Friday night?
You betcha.
I'm going to be there Friday night. There's not much that is going to stop me, King Nuffy, from being at the football. As much as straight after these games, it's like, I don't want to watch another Carlton game. Like, I'm getting no enjoyment. I'm sick of it. And I had the most rant moment after that game that I've ever had. Yeah. So it's hard to stay positive, but what do? You can't stop supporting them. That's not up for it. So you just got to hope they turn it around, and it sucks that that's it. But they have to stick fat for now. I don't think that sacking the coach does enough to change anything right now. We can't change the game plan completely. You don't have a preseason. You can't bring in a new crop of players to try and fix anything. You got to work with what you got. And will it turn around? Who knows?
Can I ask you a big vague question like you asked me earlier?
Go for it.
Do you love this group?
I don't know. I want to. But what they show me at times makes me question it a lot. Do you love this group?
I do love this group. I believe in them.
Maybe you should be giving me the pop-ups.
No,
I almost want this. I almost want this from you because I'm not sure I've got it this week. Because all I can say is like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to keep stupidly supporting this football club. We sack Voss. I'll still support us. We keep Voss. I'm going to have to still support us. Like, you just hope that it turns around. I have no evidence. I have no evidence to go off that it will happen, but I'm dumb enough to stay there and think it might. I don't know. I think it goes, I'm going to use you to pump me up to finish this in the fact that how bad have all the players been this season that were better last year. It's in there somewhere. Yeah. And maybe we are closer to it randomly clicking. Maybe the dumb optimism that we disagree with from Vossi, from Wiedering, from everyone, maybe that's correct. Maybe they are close. I don't know. It's hard for me to say it with a straight face when I don't truly believe it in this second. 10:06 p.m. on a Monday night, an hour 45 into this podcast. It's hard for me to
what are we doing?
Say it with a straight face, but what else can you do, Lockie? You got to be there for the fight. And when it does turn around, say you were there.
Oh, I like that. You know what? I'm taking the microphone Thursday night, and I'm closing that. And I'm closing that podcast after I give my 9 out of 9 tips. I'm sending us into this game. So
I had a stinker. That's going to wrap this.
No, I love. What? The last sentence brought it all together. That was magic.
Did it? Well, beautiful. So that is going to wrap this episode up. Thanks for sticking with us for this long. I'll throw a plug in there as well. If you're on the YouTube watching this and you're not subscribed and you sat through this whole thing, if you sat through this and you're not subscribed, what are you doing to yourself?
That's ridiculous.
Make sure you subscribe because you've earned it, buddy. You've earned it. Chuck us a like. Chuck us a comment through anything. Like, if you have lasted this long, I want to hear your thoughts through everything from how you're feeling, what's going on. Drop it. Get over to the socials at Navy Blue Corner. I love you all. Thank you for staying for us this long. You are the reason that we stay this passionate about this group. But that's going to finish this one off. We'll be there for the match build up later this week. See you guys next time.